And depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, welcome to the Nautel NX Series New Capabilities webinar. I'm Chuck Kelly. I'm delighted to have you all here with us. And I am going to try to make this slide advance. Okay. So I'm Chuck Kelly, Director of Sales here at Nautel. I have with me Mr. Dave Dumkin. Dave is Mr. AUI here at Nautel and a research engineer. Dave, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to have a number of different things to talk about today, particularly having to do with the NX series and some new functionality which is coming out, some of it right away and some of it in a couple of months. And we're going to actually focus on primarily a live tour of these new features. Now, these are features in which you're going to, as an NX user, you're going to get these automatically. You just have to contact customer service and get them. And the first one is a software-only upgrade. The second one also involves some hardware, and that's all there for you as well. So without any further ado, let's move on and start talking about the topic for today. First off, this is a bidirectional conversation. We request your questions. And if you'll notice on your webinar interface there, for those of you who are watching live, there's a place to enter questions. And at the end of our webinar, Dave and I will do our best to answer whatever questions you've come up with and share them with everybody. So please do write in your questions as you think of them. First, a little bit of introduction to the NX series. Of course, it's Nautel's high-power AM, medium wave, long wave series of transmitters. It has the industry's top efficiency, 90%, up to 90% AC in to RF out. It has a digital pre-correction, or another way of putting that is what was the word we used?
Intelligent.
Intelligent, yeah, pre-correction, but it's also it's pre-equalization
right.
is the word I think we're supposed to use. It has RF and audio spectrum analyzers, actually primarily RF spectrum analyzers, and also primarily it has that also should be there is a network analyzer. And the modulation is done at 2.7 megasamples per second. It's digital direct modulation. It's got an intuitive touchscreen interface, which is really going to be the focus of today's presentation. It is ultra compact, 100 kilowatt transmitters the size of a refrigerator. It's completely digital. All DRM modes plus HD radio are all supported. Today we're going to be focusing primarily on the advanced user interface, which is an integrated control system which monitors literally hundreds of parameters inside the system. It would be unfair, I think, Dave, to consider the AUI to be a remote control system, because a remote control system would look at 10, 20, 30 things maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're really just trying to empower the user and really give them a great experience so that they have more than just remote control. They can really interface with their transmitter and just get so much information about it.
And this interface is the same whether you're looking at the front of the transmitter on the 17-inch color touchscreen or via the web with the internal web server on a PC located virtually anywhere.
Absolutely. It's exactly the same thing.
It includes instrument quality, RF test equipment, including spectrum analyzers, network analyzers, which work in real time under normal operation. So that's a very important point. Having done antenna plotting in the middle of the night while you sitting out at the base of the tower and taking hours and hours to plot through the points. This is a revolutionary technology changer. So one of the things that's brand new in this software release that's coming out literally within a week or two is a rule-based scheduler. Dave, would you like to walk us through what the scheduler does for us?
Absolutely. So some of you may be familiar with the previous NX scheduler, and it was certainly a bit of a challenge to use, and so we're happy to bring this out, and it's a huge improvement. Previously we had sort of single events, and each one you had to sort of enter separately, and it was a bit laborious. And now we've moved that concept over to something that we like to call rules, and we can use these rules to generate a number of events on a scheduled basis. So you can schedule your news broadcast at the top of the hour, every hour, all day long.
Now you're getting into the audio use,
right.
But one of the things that people really wanted to use this thing for, quite typical in an AM transmitter is where they have a different mode or pattern or power level depending on the time of day.
Right.
Typically, for instance, on a station license, you might be limited to a certain amount of power at nighttime, and it may be defined on a month-by-month basis.
Right.
It may say 4:59 p.m. is the time you have to switch from high power to low power every day during the month of November, and then you switch to high power this other time. With this rule-based scheduler, you can go in and say, in the month of November, every day,
right,
you go to low power at 4:59, and it will just do that.
Exactly, and we've tried to make the interface very user-friendly. It looks a lot like what you might expect from, say, Microsoft Outlook or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Lays them out for you and shows you how many there are each day, and when you click on them, you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, this is a static display, but it says daily events, and you can see there that it shows you at what time of day these events are occurring.
Now, we're going to see all these things in a live demonstration in a few minutes, and we shouldn't go into too much detail right now. You can't have a scheduler be useful unless the clock is accurate.
That's right.
And so we've done a couple of things. One is that there is an NTP client, Network Time Protocol client, which is built into the transmitter now, and it will go out to the internet and grab the current time and update the clock automatically.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really proud of this. It's definitely something that people have been asking for, and there's nothing better than having an accurate clock when you're trying to switch your power at 4:59.
The FCC does have very specific rules for the accuracy that you've got to make these changes. And if you've got the NX series and this software update, yeah, you will be on time. Now, the other part of that is daylight savings time. That tends to blow away broadcasters all over the place because it's so difficult to understand how your transmitter, or your playlist, for instance, in this case, you played the same hour of programming over that's already been scheduled if you're falling back. But in what we've done in this transmitter now is we've actually built a complete set of rules, again, there's that word, rules that define where daylight savings time occurs and what the dates they begin and what dates they end and the whole 9 yards so that this system will keep itself on time relative to daylight savings time wherever you are.
Right, and we've actually got a huge database which is tied to a large standards body that defines these rules, and we can even update them should there be changes in the future.
Very good. We've also made a number of changes, which we'll see when we get to the main screens, people who have NXs already, that we've upgraded the look and feel of the NX to be consistent with the improvements that had been made previously in the NS and V rather, and VS, and we've actually even improved beyond those. That's
right. Yes. So we've started with the VS, and we've taken a lot of the work that we've done there, and we've improved on that, and this is what we're going to be releasing soon. Okay.
There's also some improvements in email SMTP. Some people found it difficult to use email because it required an unsecured SMTP server. And although some people had them inside their networks locked up, most people didn't.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So this now works with an SMTP secure email service, and is supported by using the TLS protocol.
That's right. And this is it's a fairly popular protocol. It's supported by Gmail, and so we can even use our own Gmail accounts now to send these email notifications from the transmitter.
I'm sure that that's going to be highly applauded.
That should be very easy.
Another thing that people talk to me about from time to time is every time they log into the AUI, they have to reset up the screen the way they like it, add the meters in and change the tools and do various different things. They wanted to be able to have a default setting for their login to the system, and that's what you've done.
Absolutely, yeah. That was probably one of the first things that we started getting questions for, and it's taken us a little bit of time, but we finally got it in there, and we hope that that will make it a little easier to sort of set things up. And
so the end result of this is when you log in and you get it all configured just the way you like it, you can then hit the disk save button over here, which I will show on the real screen in a few minutes, and it'll save it, and so the next time you log in, that's what you see.
Right there, yeah, and in fact, it's even tied to the user, so every user can sort of have their own configuration.
That's right. Okay. The next thing is the HD Constellation View, and I must say this is a substantial improvement for people. I mean, not so much in terms of what people would expect. They wouldn't even expect to see this kind of test equipment inside a unit. To be able to actually see the MER of a signal, and we'll go in and I'll show you this to you in real time, but the amount of data we're able to give you about what's going on with your digital radio signal is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're really trying to ask ourselves what can we do to sort of help you diagnose and understand what's going on with your HD signals, and I hope that this will be as a big an improvement for our customers as it was for us.
Sure. Now this is another one that we've now got to the point where people have started to get multiple AUI-equipped transmitters in a single transmitter site.
Right.
And they find it difficult because they don't know how to access the AUI from outside the site when you've got multiple AUIs inside the site. How do you get at that? So maybe you could explain what they need to do.
Right. So, before there were 3 ports that we needed, and one of those we couldn't move. And so when customers tried to access multiple transmitters behind a router or a firewall, it was impossible to access more than one at a time without changing the router rules. So what we've done is we've actually removed one of those ports entirely, and we've made the one that was immovable, the port number for the server, we can now move that to different ports. And so you can actually access multiple transmitters now behind a network. And I think that will be very important, especially for the large stations.
Absolutely. Okay, now we've also created a custom user class. In the past, we had 3 categories of users: a read-only, a read-write, and a super user. And a read-only could only see the screens. The read-write could change anything. And the super user could create new users.
Right.
And now we've actually changed the terminology and created a new class. So we have a view-only, a full control, an administrator, which is the one that can create new users, and a custom, which has kind of a subset, a configurable subset of functions that they have ability to be enabled with.
Right. Yeah. We kind of wanted to allow a little bit more control over how users were created. We wanted to make it easier and quicker to do that, and to help users understand what they're doing when they give control to somebody. I mean, full control is very self-explanatory, view only. So this should really help with sort of setting up the security around your station and protecting your settings.
Well, I do know that some of our customers had a question about the ability for the on-air disc jockey, who has to do the logging and is in fact at the control point,
right,
to actually turn on and off the transmitter. You couldn't give him view only because he couldn't turn on and off the transmitter, but you couldn't give him full control either because he might change the frequency or something. So we wanted to create a new class where you can actually allocate the specific rights you want to give to that user, and I think that's going to be very, very helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is where we go, and we switch over to a transmitter that's down in the lab right now and allow us to walk through these functions and let everybody see them. Now, one function jumps right out. If you're looking at this thing and you have an NX transmitter, you'll notice that this transmitter configuration section up here at the top is very much changed. Maybe you'd like to discuss that.
So we had a few issues here. One, that we wanted sort of a clean, easy way to change presets on the fly, which is the little button on the bottom portion of that. And that actually came out of our Nautel users group at NAB. And the other thing is that to accommodate that change, we sort of moved things around a little bit. We moved the mode and the frequency off to the right-hand side. Those are pretty self-explanatory. They didn't need any labels. And we sort of just moved things around, and I think this would be a positive change.
So a very clean look, and there's no question about how to go change a preset. Exactly. You don't have to burrow through a lot of menus or anything like that.
Hidden buttons.
No hidden buttons. That's a good thing. Okay, so let's go through some of these features we've just been talking about, Dave. Where would you like to go first?
So I think we should...
Scheduler?
Right, let's start with the scheduler.
Okay. All right, so this is our rule-based scheduler that we've been discussing. And suppose we wanted to go add a rule that for the month of November we change to a different preset at a particular time. So we're going to go to New.
Start with the New.
Okay.
And now we've got actually a from date and to date. So we want to start with November 1st.
We'll make it November 1st through November 30th.
Right. And so this second row here are the days of the week.
In this case, we're going to use all the days of the week, but we could turn off Sundays. We could stay at high power on Sunday nights. I think the FCC might disagree, but we could do that. And we want to say, what do we do if we want to just have one particular time we want to cause this event to occur?
So if we do that, if we wanted to do that, then we would use this little self-delete checkbox that we see there.
Okay.
And what that does is that basically means that we set a time, let's say 8 o'clock. It'll happen that one time, and then the rule will remove itself from the scheduler, and it'll never happen again. So this is a nice
well, we
way.
don't want to do that. I was wanting to make it so that it happens
once every day.
Once every day. Yep.
So in that case, we wouldn't use that feature.
Yeah. So I was going to use my explanation of 4:59. Now that's
right.
Is that 24-hour clock? So that should be 16:49.
24-hour clock.
So 16:49. Okay.
And in this case, if we want to have it happen once every day, we would just leave the repeat value at 0, which it is now.
And leave this with as it is, or?
We can leave that as it is, or we can enter a value there. Either way, it doesn't matter.
And then we choose what we want it to do right here.
Right.
So we could say we want it to go to a new preset.
Right.
So
maybe we should add just 1649 in that second field as well.
Okay.
So it's clear.
Okay, and we hit save.
And we hit save.
And now we've got all of those presets showing up here, and from now on that will happen. And will it happen successive years?
It'll happen every year. So the scheduler is based around the idea that this schedule repeats every single year.
Okay.
So and that will also take into account time changes and leap years and that kind of thing.
Excellent. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about, since we're on time, let's talk about time. So let's go to Menu, and that's under System Settings, I believe.
Right.
And here we are. Now we'll go to Time Setup. Now here's where you've got the stuff for the time zones and for the.
So we would initially, initially you would just set your time. And then you would select the time zone for wherever you are, and that will include daylight savings time if it's used in your area or not.
We can choose. Indiana is a funky state. They don't switch. Let's see if we can find them on here.
Right.
And so we come down here to Indiana, most time zones. Okay, or we could actually check that other one. Stark County has a whole different set of rules. So we can set that time zone now, and now it shows up there as -5. And so it's automatically keeping track of this. Now is that?
We actually saw our time go from 1300 to 11 because we were at -3 hours UTC, and now we're at -5.
Okay.
So we can see that the clock does adjust based on your selected time zone.
Okay. Now let's go look at the NTP servers. And these are some you've got set up in there.
So what we've got here is just a standard set. It's actually it's the Debian pool. It's a very large pool of time servers, well over 1,000 time servers. And we've got 4 of them defined here, and each pool is several thousand time servers. And the NTP service will select the best one from the group, which is the one that has the star next to it. I believe it's the bottom one right now.
Okay, yep.
And it will use that.
And that's based on ping times or something? I can see delay milliseconds there.
So it's based on the time, the amount of jitter we have on the clock, and it's offset from the actual time.
Okay.
And then the pluses are an example of some that it might fall back to if it were to lose its first time server or its primary time server.
Right.
And the negatives are actually time servers that it has decided are not worthwhile using at all.
Can't be off by 2.7 milliseconds.
It's a little bit too much.
That would be awful.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Anything else on this menu? I guess not. So let's go down to Menu, and what do you want to take a look at next?
Well, let's take a look at the playlists.
Okay. Well, that's actually later because we're going to talk about that. Yep. What else we got that we still trying to think of something else we were talking about?
We've actually made some changes to the menu here as well. You can see that we've got factory settings now, system settings, the pre-correction or pre-equalization settings.
Yeah.
And the reason we've done that is because we want to make it clear which settings are sort of dangerous and generally aren't used, which is under factory settings, and then system settings are sort of more.
Those are the only things if you were under control of a non-tele technician was trying to help you through something
like
or something.
Sort of a site setup situation.
Sure.
And user settings are generally now the settings where these are sort of the normal operation settings that you would.
And here's where we were talking about the email. So here's where we have the login capability for the email, and we have also SMTP down here. That's now got traps.
That's right. We're actually working on the traps, and those will be coming out in a future release.
Excellent, excellent. So let's see here, and I guess that's the information that we've pretty much been through it. Okay, so let's go back. Let's close this down for a moment and switch back over and take a peek at the PowerPoint again. And that should make it possible for us to go down here and talk about, we will. All right, so these are some things that are coming out in a few months. First quarter of 2012 is what our expectation is. And basically what we've done is to integrate the very popular VS audio functionality, IP audio functionality, USB audio functionality into the NX. And this is part of the direction we're going to add. As we create features for one platform, we then add them into other platforms as well. So the key one here is the USB playout and playlist editor, I think. And what we've got is the capability of plugging a USB stick with audio on it, many audio cuts potentially, creating a playlist, editing that playlist, and then we can even have cards, but we can create something where every time you play that card, it plays the next cut within that card. So that's a very big feature. It's very useful. It was originally developed as a audio backup feature. If the STL went down, if everything failed, you could go to this thing and it could play some station IDs and play some music or something like that, and nobody'd know you were off the air, right? So, but then the next thing that we came up with here is LiveWire inside. So this NX series is now getting LiveWire compatible. So for those of you who are not aware of LiveWire, it's an Ethernet connectivity to studio equipment. So it allows the transmitter to actually be a LiveWire device, and in doing that, it joins literally hundreds of devices from many different manufacturers that are now LiveWire compatible, which means you just simply connect it up with Cat5 cable, and that's all there is to it.
Right. Yeah, you can actually just take our transmitter and connect it up to your existing LiveWire network if you have one.
And then the Shoutcast input. So this allows you, if you're doing webcasting on the Shoutcast network, an MP3 encoded stream, you can actually plug that information about that stream in your transmitter, and if you get a silent sense, you can actually go and suck that audio right off your stream instead of going to dead air. So,
exactly. So you can actually keep broadcasting the exact same content just through a different medium, and keep your station on the air.
And I can mention this really works very well. I mean, I don't know how many people have listened to Shoutcast in the last few years. It sounds pretty reasonable. And we were down in Singapore doing a show, and we were demonstrating the VS transmitter down there. And I plugged in our little local community FM station, Cove FM, into the program there, and we broadcasted down there into a dummy load all day long, and it sounded great. So it really can be very, very valuable. Okay, so let's go back and see those features on the unit down in the lab, and take a look at how that's done. So in that case, we go to Menu, and in this situation, we're going to go to User Settings? No.
The Playlist.
Playlist Editor, of course. This is the brand new Playlist Editor. Okay, so in this case, we've got a single playlist already configured. Yes. Here's the files that are on the USB stick. Here's what's currently a member of this playlist, and then the order of that playlist. And changing the order of this thing is pretty simple. You can just simply drag and drop it into another place, and it'll
Right.
play that way. Or you can grab more content from over here and put it over there.
Yeah, and all this content is live. So when you make changes to this playlist, there's no more saving, making sure that everything is perfect. When you make this change, it immediately takes place. And if that happens to be the next song in the order of things, then it'll start playing it.
Let's talk about how we integrate streams into the new NX series. We've got a stream configured, and it is that co-FM stream. So we can actually bring that in. You simply add it, or we can add it at this and take a look and see how it's configured. But what would happen? Oh, I got to select it first,
yeah.
Sure. So now this is a Shoutcast stream. I would have had a choice of being Livewire or Shoutcast, and then it knows the name of I told it the name of the stream and the URL with the port number.
Right, and the name is really just so you can identify it in the presets when you select what source you're going to be using.
Now you might question how I would go about integrating this into the normal operation of the transmitter. So let's take a look at that. Is that over here? I guess it is.
It's actually under analog settings.
Okay. Well, it could be over here because the audio loss timeout could create it, right?
Yes. Oh, well, that's right. I mean, audio loss can definitely switch you into a mode where you would be using this.
So in this case, the current programming is coming from a playlist, which is called Hot Hits.
That's right.
And
which is the playlist that we just saw in the playlist manager.
Yep.
And it's actually playing that right now. We can see it up there on the left-right modulation.
And if we wanted to, we could switch to...
Well, what we have is we've got a number of different inputs.
Does this work? Let's see if it's right. I didn't never try it.
Right, yes, absolutely. It should work.
Let's see if it does.
Just hit save, actually.
Just save.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And there's CoVFM on the air.
So, and what we've actually done here in the preset screen is that we've changed things around a little bit. We've tried to make it easier to use. That was also one of the things that we got out of the Nautel users group.
Yep.
So the preset screen now is actually really, for the most part, with the exception of when you're editing current settings, is a library.
Yep.
And we activate presets now solely through the transmitter configuration panel up in the top banner.
Right.
Now we can. Now I did say current settings, so we do have this idea of current settings, what the transmitter is actually doing,
right.
And that can be called up in this screen, and so we can make minor tweaks and changes and save those. But
okay.
Typically, so hopefully that will make this a little bit more user friendly.
I believe it will. Another thing that is quite topical at the moment is dynamic carrier control. We just had a webinar last week about it, but just to show that those configurations of DCC are all there.
Yeah.
MDCL, whatever you want to call it, they're all there. So now what we were talking about here is audio loss timeout. And if we click yes, that we want to look at audio loss timeouts, then we can say, okay, we're going to change to a preset if this audio input stops. And we'll change to this preset, whatever
right.
it is. And the definition of an audio loss timeout is this many minutes, this many seconds of less than this amount of percentage modulation.
Right, and then it will detect that, switch over, and continue playing. And in most cases, you won't experience more than a few seconds of lost audio.
And you can have a chain, really, of these. You could
right.
start with your normal STL input coming in through AES EBU, for instance, and it could switch to, say, the Shoutcast stream from your same station.
Right.
And if that goes dead too, then it could switch to the USB and
right.
begin to play a playlist.
Play some songs.
Okay. All right. So that's how that works. All right. And let's see here. Yep. Let's go to this feature because I know it's a key one for people. Okay. So my screen is all set up here with the meters just the way I like it.
That's right.
How do I make sure that this is the way it is from now on for me?
So if we hit the little disk icon there,
okay,
we can actually save our meters to a given name.
Okay.
So what we'll see here in this list is we'll actually see a little star. So that star indicates that is the default. That's what gets loaded when you log in as the user that you are.
Okay.
Now, don't be confused by the word Chuck there. We're actually logged in as Nautel. So what that
right.
means is when we log in as Nautel, this will be the default set.
Perfect.
Now, if you were to log in as a different user, you can have a different set or list of meters, and you can also have a different default.
Excellent.
So it's very configurable.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, what did we forget here, Dave? I think we've done most of it, huh?
Pretty good.
Okay. So, yep.
Constellation, I think.
We did talk about that.
Oh, did we? Okay.
We did. Well, not
we
as much as we should.
I think we can.
Let's open that up and show that to people
on
the live.
like here.
So what you can see now in the Constellation View is not only the same screen we had before, but you also have the group details over here.
Right, yeah. We've got the subcarrier groups. We tell you from what frequency to what frequency they go, what the MER measurement is.
Yep, you can actually see the MER.
We also have a little description in the middle there. It tells you what type of carrier group you're looking at.
Okay.
And then across the top there, we've got an MER measurement of each of the groups to show you how they're doing and measuring the distortion there for you.
Okay.
See how well your symbols are coming in. And we can actually see quite a bit there on the Constellation. I mean, we can even see it rotating a little bit.
Yep.
And that's the modulation that's working on our spectrum there, and I mean, it just really gives you a lot of information to help you understand how well you're receiving your audio.
And what's neat is you can do this from some distance away, or Nautel can log in over your shoulder and take a look at this, and you've given us the password and all that sort of thing, and can help you figure out what this means.
Right, help you understand what you're seeing.
Okay, so let's go back and see what kind of questions people may have. Or actually, we will take a look here as well at the summary. I think we've got a summary screen we're going to go through. Well, we can also talk a little bit about push. Push radio is a concept in which the content is distributed out to the transmitter. So not only do you have your content at your studio and then go through the STL in real time, but you also have the potential of playing audio off directly at the transmitter. And with the USB audio functionality that is coming to the NX, push radio is now compatible with the NX transmitter, or will soon be compatible with the NX transmitter. And so what this allows us to do is to store the content at the transmitter, execute the playlist locally, upload new content via IP, and also change the playlist remotely. And thus, we don't need a real-time STL anymore. We can actually, in fact, we can have hundreds of transmitters part of one network, and this information is then shared with these transmitters without, for instance, a very expensive satellite system.
Right, and even if, and it can even just serve as a great backup because it's locally stored content. So,
that's right.
If your connection goes down, it's going to keep going.
It just keeps playing. So let's talk about the summary. The NX series is, of course, today's most advanced medium wave AM transmitter series available today. It's available from 25 kilowatts to 2 megawatts with efficiency up to 90% AC into RF out. Works in the medium wave or AM band as well as the long wave band. It's ready for all forms of digital radio, DRM, HD radio. It's complete with powerful test equipment, and as of now, has even more functionality than people ever had before. So let's take a look and see if anyone had any questions here for us. And let's see here. Let's see, we've got at least one. Does the audio go back to normal programming once it's been restored? No.
The quick answer to that is no. There are a number of ways that we can sort of work around that issue. For instance, we can introduce a small 5-second silence clip in our playlist, and then we can use our silence detection to actually try and switch back to the main audio to see if it's there. So every, say, half hour, 45 minutes, you could have this little clip in there, and that transmitter would try to try your mainstream again.
The thought has been that if your audio went away, you ought to have a chance to listen to it first before you put it back on the air. So that's the way the system has been designed. So it doesn't go back to normal programming because it's not monitoring the channel which is no longer on air. And there's all kinds of things that could be non-silenced that could go on to an STL that has failed before and is now coming back. So that's been the methodology behind that. Don't see any more questions. However, you certainly have the right to ask more questions either by email or by talking to your regional sales manager for Nautel, and we'll get to them in just a moment. But I should also mention additional sources for information from Nautel or the Nautel Waves newsletter. You can sign up for that here. You can find all of these webinars in stored format, so you can download them and watch them at your leisure. There are videos online at our YouTube site, and of course you can actually buy parts and check prices and parts and things like that at our Nautel store. And so for our regional sales managers from across the United States and the world, I'm Chuck Kelly with Dave Dumke, thanking you all very much for being with us. Send any questions to sales@nautel.com. Thank you very much for being with us today, and have a good afternoon.